Howdy. This will be for. Sorry, testing if I can switch screens. This will be for Jigsaw reading number 4. My topic is racial equity and equity and leadership. So basically, I guess start for the summary. It's kind of this article was released around when President Obama was just elected. So it's kind of talking a lot about how race and equity combine with leadership and how we can uh, adopt strategies to help support and promote more diverse hires and leaders pretty much in a lot of our communities. Um, so kind of just talking about part one is racial justice and leadership framework, and it's kind of talking about a bunch of research this organization has done about how some strategies for pushing and supporting racial justice and racial leadership. So it says there's individual approaches, which kind of is about like teaching individuals certain skills and practices on and like raising their personal awareness. And then there's intergroup approaches, which is bringing people of different racial and ethnic groups together to kind of dismantle stereotypes and talk about things within themselves and kind of like let them learn with each other. And then institutional approaches is teaching organizations how they can educate their people on race and ethnicity and all that. They're all important and they all need to work together. Personally, for me, I think intergroup is probably the best because you're learning directly with the people that you're trying to learn from. At least for me, I think that would be the best. And then getting into the next part, it's kind of like addressing how. So racism. I mean, it's kind of addressing like structured racism and how when it comes to leadership and racism, a lot of the times they bring it like when you think who should be in charge, you typically think it's like the most qualified. It should be the most person with the most experience, most knowledge on the subject. And this kind of brings up the point that a lot of people that are racial or ethnic minorities didn't grow up or didn't get trained. They weren't they didn't have the opportunities to get these resources that some people of like ethnic majority might have to kind of learn and build up their knowledge and skill level. So they might be at a disadvantage when it comes to hiring practices like that. So it kind of says we should maybe start to lean away from that being the primary objective of hiring when it comes to leadership. And it goes through some kind of roles and like things you can do about that. So it says, sorry, lost where I was. Kind of things like asset based is like instead of focusing on what some people might not have, focus on like what they are really good at. Experience driven, which is saying like when you have problems, maybe focus on hiring people who have experienced that problem because they probably know things about that even external experts might not because they have firsthand witnessed it. And then relational, which is saying leadership is often all about relationships and finding people who might not be the most knowledgeable or subject matter expert, but they're really good at making relationships and like developing and accumulating that team might be more important. And then it goes through a lot of different strategies specifically for racial equity. And so like listening, storytelling, healing, kind of just these different methods of developing and kind of like how to not work with racial minorities, but kind of like methods that might be helpful when it comes to like learning with, and that are just like, I guess they're just methods to help learn a group learn that might happen to help with a racial minority. So like storytelling, inner work, healing, like finding groups of people who have experienced similar things. Um, And I think it's an interesting topic because I know a lot of the times, I mean, I'm a straight white man, so I know a lot of times I hear other straight white men talk about how, like, they, in 2024, I know this article was probably written in like 2007, 2008. But in 2024, we talk a lot about how diversity hiring, I hear a lot of straight white men talk about how diversity hiring might not be, is kind of annoying because them as a white man, if they're more qualified and they have more experience in the field and everything on paper seems like they might be the best candidate for a job, they might get skipped over simply because they are a white man, and someone with less experience and less um, qualification but might be a person of color or a different ethnic group might get selected just to be a diversity hire. And I think it raises an interesting question. Actually, perfect example. I love football. I love the NFL. In 2021, they instituted a program that if you hire people of color or racial minorities to your coaching staff, your team will actually get awarded draft picks based on the importance of the position they got hired to. And this raised a question with a lot of people is like, are some of these coaches getting hired because they are the best candidate for the job, or are they getting hired because they're a good candidate for the job and also they benefit the team in other ways? And I always think is that almost more racist, or like how does I almost feel like that's more hurtful to the cause, the NFL implementing this, because you run into that situation of are they hiring them because they are the best candidate or because they will help that team, and it's almost incentivizing, having to put the incentive on it almost points out the fact that they are not as good of candidates as some as other people will be, versus if there was no incentive, it kind of, and they get hired for that job, it's like they were the best candidate, that's why they got hired. So I think it's an interesting topic and one I definitely like to discuss more in class.